Gaming is for friends.
I thought this music was so epic.
We all like talking about gaming. The only thing that I disliked about the old game. There are so many different conversations started by gaming.
Oh, I forgot. I have you.
This could be anything. Okay, walk in that green goo. Oh, nope. That's a no. Anything Gaming Podcast. Hi, and welcome to Anything Gaming, the podcast about anything gaming. I'm Anthony. This is Woody. What do we got today?
Today we actually, I think we need to explain the thumbnail, naturally. Apparently there was, this is just like a breaking point of interest. Microsoft, namely Phil Spencer, had floated the idea of actually acquiring Nintendo.
I know, and we'll get more into that. We'll get more into that as the show goes on. And we got, what other things have we got to do as well today?
Well, we also want to take a look ahead, a look into the future for gaming. You know, it's easy now to get wrapped up in gaming of today, coming at you so many directions. While it might be harder to even look at the past nowadays, although we take, granted abilities with that, with remasters and whatnot, we want to take a look into the future, 10 years from now. And where do you think games are going to be? Who the leaders are going to be, the players? Is it just going to be a mirror of what it is right now with Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo running things? Might someone come in and try to do something? Might someone leave? Is someone on the ropes? We'll discuss that as well. After that, we'll be talking about each of us, our 5 most addictive games. Games that we are just going to play no matter what. Games that when you're not playing it and you're just going about your day, you're still playing it in your head because it's all you can think about. The only time you can stop thinking about it is when you start playing the game again. Everyone's got at least a million, I'm assuming. So I know I do. When I'm sure you have a lot as well.
Yeah, no, that's 100% right. And yeah, well, so let's start with this Microsoft leaked email that it was kind of it's kind of interesting how it all came about.
I just want to say this too, we'll get into how the idea even got floated about, but you got to admit, if something like that happened, it would be a schism in gaming history. It would be the thing. It would be the biggest acquirement of any studio ever. It would be bigger than when anything with Bethesda, anything with Activision.
I don't. Well, you saw how hard it was for Microsoft to acquire Activision. I mean, they're still not even over the line with that yet. So I can't imagine it even possible for them to buy Nintendo. I feel like Sony would just come in with everything to stop that. That would be a no, hell no, and definitely not on all accounts.
It should be noted that when Nintendo got whiff of this, I don't think it was recent. I'm pretty sure, they mentioned it. They laughed their asses off. They didn't take it seriously for 1 second. Microsoft is a lot of money. Microsoft is a major company, but it's not like Nintendo's not that much far behind. At that point, what's this much billion worth that much billion? Now, could a merger happen? Maybe. That would be a possibility. But I don't think Microsoft would ever be able to just outright buy Nintendo.
Well, this email was back in 1999. So you've got to remember back then, was this just before the Wii came out or just after the Wii came out? Was it when Nintendo was at a low point around then, I think?
Well, I mean, okay, so 1999, the Nintendo 64 was around. Now, I would say in 99, the PlayStation 1 was outpacing the Nintendo 64. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't a drastic outpace. Nintendo 64 still had a built-in not just so much a following, but just a consumer base. Mm-hmm. There were people that were actively buying Nintendo 64 games and Nintendo 64 accessories. But they weren't the number one anymore, and they had been, at least in the States, for a long time. So just the fact that they weren't the top dog anymore made people go, if they're not number one, then they're vulnerable. So I'm sure Microsoft at this time, 99, this is just a couple years before the original Xbox came out they owned Windows, they owned the operating system, and a lot of people use that operating system to play games. Why not just eliminate that and you can just go right straight for the console market? So buying Nintendo in 99, just like today, in 99, they had plenty of franchises. Pokemon had just come off the ground. That was, I don't even think there was, I think it was red, blue, and yellow at that moment.
Well, you've got to remember too, a couple of years before that, PlayStation only came about because they were trying to do a Sony collaboration console, and because they wanted to push the CDs and all that kind of stuff. That's where Sony's little head was at. Hey, we can sell more CDs if we can put them into video game consoles. And so they made this there's actually a couple of them around, these Nintendo's PlayStation consoles that never actually got released, and that actually became the PlayStation 1 after Nintendo said, nah, we'll go back to cartridges. We like cartridges better. So yeah. It's funny how the gaming industry evolves out of those type of things.
It wasn't like Nintendo and Sony didn't have an original relationship. If you crack open a Super Nintendo, please don't. The sound chip used is a Sony chip.
Mm-hmm.
Sony developed the sound for the Super Nintendo. So they had that relationship going in. They actually helped them with their architecture of their hardware. That's big. So in hindsight, like, you think if Nintendo would have partnered with anyone, it would have been Sony. And if that happened, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, the landscape would be completely different.
Oh, do you think they would have dominated, or do you think it would have just fallen apart?
Yeah, no. Well, because at that time, we're talking 95. That was also the year the Sega Saturn came out. And the Saturn, assuming that everything goes the same way it did for the Saturn, they would not have had a good time. They had a poorly rushed release, at least in North America. Just even as a child remembering, I didn't see a lot of advertising for the Sega Saturn. I really didn't. Even in 95, I would see more advertising for the PlayStation than I'd still see advertising for Jaguar. But I wouldn't be seeing anything for the Sega Saturn. So it was just very weird. Like, their whole marketing strategy just like crumbled too. And if Nintendo kept the way they were,
I remember that also over here. Like, they were heaps hyped about the Sega Saturn, and it's like they released it and realized that they were going to sell none of them, and they just go, well, we're no point advertising this if no one's going to buy it. That's the vibe I got as well.
No, I mean it's a shame what happened. The Saturn, underrated system, but if Nintendo merged with Sony, it would have died quicker. And if Nintendo merged with Microsoft, that would be it. That's what we all be playing. There'd be no exclusives. There'd just be one console that you would have to buy. So I'm glad. I'm glad none of those happened. I think competition does bring it. At least from a. I can't speak for every aspect of life, but looking at video games, it always seems like we get the better games if they're really trying hard. And the best way to try hard is to compete.
Yeah, I agree with that. So let's start with around the 2000 mark and kind of use your encyclopedia brain and go through what was happening in around that time. And let's go from there forward, and then we can predict the future. I think that's the easiest way to do it.
And that's good because we already did, I mean, by that time, after the whole thing with Nintendo and Sony really not working together, and Microsoft also realizing that they were going to go out on their own and into the console market, you had the players of today: Nintendo, Microsoft, Sony. At that quick juncture, you did still have Sega because they still did have the Dreamcast. But it didn't last long.
No.
You know what I mean? No. Like, it's a pain to say because I love the Dreamcast, but they were doomed the second the PlayStation 2 came out. Period. Like, they just were. And it stinks to say. I wish it didn't work out that well. That competition's not good if someone leaves, but it's just something happened and it forged what we know today. And for that particular moment, the leader undoubtedly was the PlayStation, Sony. I want to say the GameCube, last estimate, Could be wrong on this if you want to fact check me. I think it moved about like 2.3, 2.5 million. Where the original Xbox, honestly, didn't do as much better as you think. But the PlayStation 2, oof, that moved units. That was clearly the leader in that little time bubble. Nothing really. On a personal level, everyone I knew at least had a PlayStation 2. You know, so, I would say I actually knew more people that had a GameCube than an original Xbox. But numbers don't lie, and Xbox still had a strong following. Halo was the guts that they needed. You got the numbers?
PlayStation 2 sold 155 million units.
Right.
The GameCube, well, this is over its lifetime. The GameCube only sold 21 million units. So,
21, yeah.
So that's not really.
I mean, yeah. Like, there's no question that Sony won that round. But the next round, which I would consider to be the Wii, the Xbox 360, and the PlayStation 3, that's when the waters became really muddy. Because if you go by numbers, if you just go by bucks in the bank, Nintendo came back, and they came back hard. Like, the Wii was an outstanding success for a couple different factors. One factor that I always like to remind people is that there was a point, at least in the United States, where the Wii was the most favorite device for playing Netflix when streaming first came out onto the scene. For a little while, at least. I think it was the first time they measured it. It was off the Wii. If you were watching Netflix, it was probably off the Wii browser.
Yeah, right.
In some way, form. But not just that, though. People were interested into the motion play. I was. And finally, even little kids that run around and just make movement. Here's a Wiimote. Boom, you're playing golf now. And the Wii was instrumental, mostly probably Gen Z, into introducing them to video games. Like, that's what you can do. So
I remember going to my local game shop, and that they said to me, "You've got to try the Wii controller," because at the time, I think around that early 2005 era, it wasn't very common for consoles to be set up for you to have a trial at. Like, that wasn't the thing. That kind of died out as the 2000s came about. Remember, before that, you'd go to the supermarket or go to your shopping center, and all of a sudden you could play it. They'd have this weird TV with this arm sticking out,
with bulletproof glass around it and all that.
Yeah. But that kind of went away. So they couldn't demo the Wii, but everyone at the game shops were always saying, "You've got to try the Wii controller. You've got to try it." And I'm like, yeah, okay. But PlayStation, everyone forgets, PlayStation 3 actually came out with the motion 6-axis controller too. They just didn't implement it on hardly any games, like literally 5 titles out of 1 million.
The most I've ever gotten out of PlayStation, Sony in general, 3 to 5, motion control is using the motion control to type in letters when I'm like writing a message or inputting something. Really, that's what it is. I've really never used, in a major sense. Dreams used it somewhat, and there's other games I'm sure I could think of if I think hard enough that I moved the control this way and it did something, but not nearly to the extent that the Wii did. But I wouldn't say that Microsoft and Sony were unsuccessful. Well, I wouldn't say Microsoft wasn't unsuccessful either, because it kind of created.
Do you want the numbers for this? So
yeah,
the Xbox 360 was 84 million. The PlayStation 3 was 87 million, and the Wii was 101 million.
And keep this number in mind: the Sony brand does way better internationally than the Xbox brand does. Xbox doesn't move the same kind of numbers in like Japan, for example. I don't know European numbers. I don't know Australian numbers. But over here, I would say, over here at least, way more people had a 360 than they did a PS3, or at least in my personal experience. Maybe it changed regionally, I don't know, but Xbox 360 seemed to be the system.
Yeah.
It was the system you were bringing a controller over to your friend's house.
Yeah, I think the Xbox 360 was big.
They already got like 6 Wii remotes, so this is like you're probably bringing over that. It was that schism. So I think that gen really was maybe the most equally shared of all the gens. There really wasn't a clear like industry leader because everyone seemed like they were getting their own piece of the pie. The main thing that kept PlayStation 3 really afloat was the fact that, much like the PlayStation 2 was the cheapest DVD player you could get at the time, this was like the cheapest Blu-ray player you could get at the time. There was a lot of people. It was my first Blu-ray player.
Yeah, I think that was I got the PlayStation 3 on the very first one. So the first PlayStation 3 was the backwards compatible one. And it cost a fortune. Like over here in Australia, I think at the time it was something like $900 or something, which is like way more expensive than everything else. And I don't understand why, but for some reason, to make it cheaper, they had to take the backwards compatibility out of it. Which,
I never understood that either. Yeah.
But then it literally halved in price once I did that.
Sad story about my PS3. Sometimes in life you have to get rid of some stuff because you need money. And at the time I really wasn't using my PS3, so I ended up selling my first PS3, which was a fat one. I didn't buy another one until about like 2 years after that. So I regret it to this day because the fact that you could play PS1 and PS2 off it was really cool.
But it didn't actually play him as... It must have been an emulator or something in it because it did not play him nearly as nicely as the PS2 almost played it. It was pretty dicey. It wasn't nearly as good.
No, I mean... Good enough. Like I don't think the layman would notice, but yeah, I'd be like, oh, this isn't as bright. Or it's way more bright or something like that, like a visual fidelity issue or something like that. The core gameplay would always be the same, so that was if it depended on what you're playing, it was good.
Yeah. Also, do you remember the PS3 had this thing where it would upscale your DVDs? So if you're watching a DVD, you could upscale it to HDMI and that. Like that wasn't a thing really in Blu-ray players at the time or anything like that. That was not a thing.
No, I mean, it was cool. It was them selling it's still a media player, It was still like the streaming wasn't a thing yet. Yeah. It was coming. Like by that time, I'm sure industry experts and like analysts saw it coming, but it wasn't there yet. So physical media, it was still taken care of, especially by Sony because that was their backbone. Hell, 80s, you might have a Sony VCR or Betamax for like the year it was out. That was one of Sony's missteps. That's kind of funny. Blu-ray I always seen as Sony's redemption for Betamax because like they backed Betamax and it bombed hard. So they needed
you know why that bombed, don't you?
Personally, it's because you couldn't record on it.
No, it bombed because VHS came in, and right at the time, the adult film industry was booming, and Sony would not allow adult films onto their thing. So that's why it just bombed. And then as Blu-ray, the first thing they did was went and seen the adult industry say, "Hey, we got this new disc, use this," and they're like, "Okay." So. That's just a weird little bit of side trivia.
No, hey, whatever sells the product, right? So for that gen, I would definitely say that the playing field was keeled. Then you move on to the next gen, which would be the PS4, the Xbox One, and the Wii U.
Yeah, now, this is really interesting because I think Xbox did something terrible here. Everyone was using their PlayStation and their Wii to go and play Netflix and all these streaming services. And so Xbox marketed their Xbox One as the all-home entertainment thing. And they kind of forgot about the games. And PlayStation, on the other hand, realized how their PlayStation 3 was used as a media device. And they came out, and I remember all the ads at the time saying, it's all about the games, or it's something like that. Every time you'd see a PlayStation ad, it's all about the games, or something like that was always at the end of the commercial. And so PlayStation realized that they needed to get the gamers back on board. Xbox saw that everyone was using it for other things, but they didn't realize that gamers were actually using it for games, but then they would use it for other things as well. But the main thing they wanted it for was games. And so they mucked it up so bad. And the Xbox One was probably one of the most Like, I'm surprised Xbox is still around after how badly that did.
Well, I mean, there were missteps. I mean, they were. I mean, that's calling what they were. They were fuck ups. But I think though by this time, Microsoft had a strong fan base, fanboys. If you got fanboys, you at least got a steady flowing income coming in from whatever. Maybe it's not big enough to keep it going, but you got something to grow on. So, and admittedly, I could tell you that Xbox One's launch games, the one I remember most is Rise: Son of Rome. And
yes,
while it looked pretty, it didn't. Honestly, it looked like an upscaled. It looked like a really good 360 game, graphically. Gameplay wise, it didn't offer anything new.
I liked it. I liked that game a lot.
For the record, I did play it once. I don't know if it was a Game Pass or whatever. I think when my friend got the Xbox, that was like the game, so I played it. It wasn't horrible, but I look at the PS4's launch games, and honestly, the only one I can think of is Infamous Second Son. And I didn't dig it as I finished it, but I didn't walk away being like, wow, that game was great. I was like, well, I got some trophies for that, and I put it away, and I haven't even thought about it since. So on that front, they didn't have the most stellar launchers, either of them.
No.
Or at least what they could have been.
See, I came from the Xbox 360 because at the time, Xbox 360 was killing the PlayStation 3 in my mind, games-wise. And then I've gone, well, I'm going to get an Xbox because I love where Xbox is at the moment. And I was super disappointed in that. So I ended up selling my Xbox, having no consoles. And then I went to PCs for this period of my life here because I was just like, I don't like any of these consoles. I ended up going back to the PlayStation 4 because it did actually get some really, really good titles as it went on.
Yeah, both systems. There's Xbox One's games I got that are great games, Actually, Xbox One finally got me once they released Sunset Overdrive, which I think is still the most underrated Xbox exclusive, made by Insomniac.
I know, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. Now,
they paid a lot. They paid a lot for that too. They paid a lot for that exclusivity.
It's cringy in some of the story aspects, but the game itself is so fun to play. Maybe the most fun. Well, Spider-Man would probably be the most fun. But even more so than the original PS2 games. I think this was the most fun I ever had with an Insomniac game was Sunset Overdrive. That's what finally got me to be like, all right, a game like this, I need to get an Xbox because it's the only way I'm going to play it. Yeah.
No, I think they started doing the Halos and all that stuff again. I think this is about the period when we started getting all the remasters and all that started coming through around that time.
During that time, yeah, that's really when it started to take off. There was always kind of like remasters here and there. It's not as new of a phenomenon as people like to think it is, but it definitely has intensified in the last couple cycles, like majorly, you know what I mean? It's to the point now where you think to yourself, wow, I can't wait for the PS6 to come out. I wonder what PS5 games are going to be remastered for it. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. So, no... And hey, I don't mind it. I don't hate on it as much as a lot of other people do. There is something to be said about, not having any original ideas and blah, blah, blah. But the fact is, a lot of these games are old enough that serious gamers today may have missed it. There might be someone out there who, is into video games. They just weren't around when Dead Space came out. So here's a new look, and it's just, sure, you could go back and play it. I actually want to say it's I know if it's not on Game Pass, at least it's backwards compatible. But rather than go in the past, because clearly you're someone that has more, used to the graphics and capabilities today. Here's the remake.
So what did the Wii U have to offer? What did that come out with? Because I never even looked at that console.
For what it's worth, actually, I got to say the launch games were better than the PS4 and the Xbox Ones.
Right.
Two off the top of my head. It came with Nintendo Land, a party minigame-ish game that a lot of people sleep on. It's one of those games that objectively you have to look at it and be like, oh, there's not that much to do with this.
Yeah.
But damn it all if I didn't play it a lot with my friends and their kids. Like this is when like, a lot of my friends are starting to have kids. So children now we're like when you go over to play video games now, okay, we'll play with him. And we would play Nintendo and we'd have a blast. We'd play the Metroid minigame, we'd play the Zelda minigame, the Pikmin minigame. The Donkey Kong one was weird. I don't think anyone ever completed that, but it was just fun. It was just really fun to do. And the game that everyone bought was New Super Mario Brothers U, which on one hand
it was a remake.
I wouldn't say it's like the best. Like even like the low tier Mario 2D platformers are still better than any other 2D platformer you're gonna play today. You know what I mean? Like even if Wonder doesn't like really match the heights of like World and like in the New Super Mario Brothers Wii or any of those like, oh my god, those ones, it's still going to be probably one of the best games you play this year. But it was a very fun 2D platformer. I loved it. Actually, I got to say, it's kind of funny. One thing that it did different where there wasn't secrets everywhere, which sounds like you wouldn't like it, but it made the game a lot more straightforward to me. So I actually was able to play that game a lot better
without trying to jump off the screen.
Some of the new Mario games. Yeah. I actually enjoy that. And then it came out with the new Super Luigi U, which was a really fun add-on. It was like the first major add-on to anything I could ever think of Nintendo doing, and it was super fun. It was new levels, only 100 seconds to complete it, and you play as Luigi. And because you're playing as Luigi, he can jump higher, but he has worse traction.
And so I never had a Wii U. What was that little? Was it like a Game Gear in your controller, or what was? It looked like a Game Gear to me.
Okay, so if you never held a gamepad. If I knew I was going to be talking about this, I would have grabbed it. If you never held a gamepad, think of a bulkier Switch that feels more hollow because it's got more of a plastic shell to it.
Yeah, right.
But it's the same thing, the same controller, the same button layout, same touchscreen. And that was a cool thing, the touchscreen. I mean, it just added a whole new flavor to a lot of games. I'm a Wii U stan. I love Wii U. I liked the new Mario game. 3D World when that came out on that. That was a lot of fun. Mario Maker, I loved. I still love. And that really took advantage of the touchscreen of the Wii U because now you were actually drawing the levels onto the screen. Placing this here, playing that there. I liked it a lot. The only problem with the Wii U, I feel now, at least on a collector's stance, there's really not much that's only on the Wii U that you just can't get for the Switch now. Like the only exclusive that off the top of my head I can think for the Wii U that keeps my Wii U plugged in is NES Remix. And of course, if anyone who has got a Wii U, there might be games that you download. It was the last real, store, virtual store where you could buy digitally the NES games, the SNES games, because now with the Switch, it's just the service.
But, well, the thing with the Wii U it only sold 13 million copies. So that's why they probably ported everything to the Switch because basically no one had the Wii U. So they probably made these games that were actually okay and they're just like, well, let's just port them because no one's played them yet.
Yeah, it's actually funny. I want to say that the original Mario Kart 8, the original one, is still I don't know if it's the least selling Mario Kart, but I'm pretty sure it's the least selling console Mario Kart of all time. Still sold a lot. It's still like Wii U's one like top seller. But if you compare it to like the best selling one, which is Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on the Switch, that tells you exactly what you need to know why everything ended up going on Switch. Almost everything that came out on the Switch that already came out on the Wii U sold way better. I mean, it's just, and everything too, like Bayonetta 2. I remember playing that I remember that was a Wii U exclusive, and I was like, wow, that's cool, because it was a different type of game. It wasn't necessarily violent or anything like that, but it's a game that you would expect it on the other guys.
Yeah.
But even that ended up just getting ported to the Switch anyway, along with 3 and 1, I think.
Well, then we get to the Switch, PlayStation 5, and Xbox.
Yeah.
What we got now, and what do you think Well, obviously the clear winner is the Switch. It's sold
Switch, yeah,
it's sold 1 trillion of everything.
Like it's more or less a repeat of the Wii 360, PS3, or at least on that end, you know, because they're not in really direct competition with the Xbox Series or the PS5. They're really not. I don't consider them to be. Look at Mortal Kombat 1. You know, like they're clearly on a different wavelength than them. But if you're just going by what video game anything is selling the most, Switch all day.
I think that was a smart move from Nintendo. Nintendo goes, we can't beat PlayStation, we can't beat Xbox, so we have to be different. We have to do something that they're not doing, and let's make this handheld console. And they've actually got like the Lite, the Switch Lite, so you can just play handheld, because they knew that they had such an audience from the Nintendo DS, which was like it sold almost more than the PlayStation 2. And so they're like, well, we know we can sell handheld ones. Let's make one that's handheld, but it can do a little bit of TV work as well, just in case. We know what we know what our market is. Let's go and do that. And that's
smartest idea. Like seriously, it was brilliant. That's one thing we kind of like glossed over, if we even talked about it, was the portable market, because it was just straight Nintendo. Even with the PSP and Vita coming out, and them too, still really good underrated systems. That's the reason why we didn't talk about portable until this point, because Nintendo. That's what kept Nintendo alive, I think, during the Wii U era. Like if it wasn't for the 3DS, that'd be it. That would be a wrap. But they saw the amazing success that the 3DS was having, and they were like, you know, that's make both in one, and it worked out so well for them. Yeah, and you kind of see it. I mean, you look at that PlayStation Portal, and it does look great. Although, truth be told, I think the PlayStation Portal leans more towards the Wii U than the Switch, because you're still gonna be, you know, which is fine. I love the Wii U, so I'm on board. But I think a lot of people maybe who got a bad taste in their mouth through the Wii U maybe will not like buy into that.
Some of these consoles come before their time, though. Like if you go back to the Dreamcast, the Wii U, definitely the PlayStation Vita. Those consoles for me were like too expensive and too revolutionary, and they go back to those consoles to kind of get ideas to going forward.
I mean, sometimes you got to look back to go forward. Even motion control. Motion control came out in 2016, but people forget Power Glove, 1985. I mean, it didn't do anything. You know, all it did was make a funny scene in The Wizard and a whole lot of memes. That's all the Power Glove ever did. But it was still a legitimate, you know, money put into it attempt to bring motion control to the screen.
And the Virtual Boy was the VR attempt.
Same thing, you know. I mean, you got to look at, okay, this didn't work then. How can we improve on this? And maybe that's what the Portal will do. Maybe the Portal will be that. Maybe it'll be the same. Okay, a dock screen for a device in your house. It didn't work with the Wii U. Let's see if we can make it work. Let's see if we can do something with it that, you know, is incredible and, you know, just like out of this world and revolutionary, and you'll be talking about it forever and ever. Who knows? And you don't know until you try.
Well, I think this is all coming. Remember Stadia, Google Stadia? Then you had Steam.
I do now.
Sorry for that horrible memory. And then we had Steam with their little Steam thing, so you could play your Steam games on your TV.
The Steam Deck or the Steam Machine. Those two. I mean, you see the, you know, the ingenuity everywhere, and even the Steam Deck. That's more or less looking at what the Switch is doing, and I mean, it is. Yeah, I love Steam. Don't get me wrong. I love Steam. I love Valve, and I hope to have a Steam Deck someday in my life. But I see it for what it is. You know, the Switch was there first in my mind. But that's how it works. You know. Good artists copy, great artists steal.
Well, the Steam Deck kind of comes into calculations for where we're at, because we're kind of looking at what's now, and technically the Steam Deck is a console, and it is a now console. It's only sold 162 million units, so 100. sorry, 1.6 million units. Let me just get to my maths right. So yeah, it's only 1.6 million units. So it's not very high at all. It's basically insignificant compared to, your 120 million units of your Switch and your PlayStation 5, which has got 40 million units. So it's really insignificant, but Steam's always trying to do these innovative things of trying to push the envelope, like with their controllers and different things like that. So are Steam going to be the one that take over the console market?
Well, see, here's the thing, and we have to actually go back again to what we were talking about, and I can tell you exactly why Steam Deck hasn't taken off. Marketing. I haven't not seen any advertising. Obviously it's different today because of social media, but even on an advertising standpoint, the only time I ever hear about Steam Deck on social media is if I look at one of my Facebook groups that's like, yeah, I got the Steam Deck, it's great, or I got the Steam Deck, it sucks. Just like little things like that. Valve really, to me at least, in my perspective, really haven't tried to sell me the Steam Deck. The only time they try to sell me the Steam Deck is when I go on Steam on my browser. That's the only when I go to them, they'll sell it to me. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it on any, crappy pop-up ads. This might just be me. Maybe it has with other people. I don't know. I'm just speaking from personal experience. I haven't seen it pop on anything. I haven't seen magazine. I haven't seen commercials. I haven't seen any of that for the Steam Deck. And to be honest, it's actually impressive that they even got to the number they have already because of that.
Have you let's do a live kind of test here if you're in front of your computer. Go to Steam and click on the Steam Deck. Every time I click on it, it's sold out in my country. So maybe they can't make them fast enough.
Well, I'm on the Steam Deck. Oh, Steam Deck sale.
Is it?
It says buy now, buy now, buy now.
Okay, so my one says sold out in my country. Every time I click on it, it's always sold out. So I'm not sure if they can actually produce enough of the Steam Deck at this stage. That's my other guess is why they're not selling as many.
This is looking at these prices gonna make my credit card cry. I'm getting off this page. All right, yeah.
Turn it off.
No. My birthday's coming up, and I should get myself something, but I can't afford that.
No, and well, the other thing with the Steam Deck is that there's about 3 or 4 other players in the market that have a very similar PC-based handheld console as well. So it's not exclusively, and Steam can be put on multiple things, which it'd be pretty funny to see Steam on a Nintendo Switch or something like that. That would be kind of cool. But
go back to mergers. Imagine if Valve and Nintendo teamed up.
Oh my god, they just dominate.
Yeah, that'd be oof. I'd launch myself into space. I would live amongst the stars at that moment. I love those companies, but that'd be a marriage.
So what's your next 10 years look like? What do you think? Where do you think the gaming market's going? Where do you think we're going to buy next?
Well, smart money is, and quite simply what we just talked about, I think portable gaming is going to get better. Not so much necessarily portable gaming, just more convenient gaming. Already, I haven't talked about it now because I really don't want to talk about it, but let's just go ahead and say it. Mobile gaming. For what it's worth, it's really advancing. I saw it was the newest iPhones. I'm pretty sure it runs off the cloud, but it plays Resident Evil 4 Remake.
Yeah.
It plays it, You would need a controller. You're not playing it, without a controller, of course. But just the fact that turns that phone right there, boom, Resident Evil. I don't think that will ever really become popular, though, because people, while playing a game on your phone is still cool and people love it, that's not what people use their phones for. They use it to reach out, communication, tweet, whatever. Gaming is just it's not the main objective of your phone, really. Or at least to the majority of people that have phones, which is, people. So there will always be a need for a separate, dedicated, portable gaming console. And I think that you're going to see a lot of people trying to get a piece of that pie. I would not be completely shocked. If Microsoft can get over the hump with the Xbox Series X, it's selling. I own one, but they got a lot riding on it. If they get past that hump, I wouldn't be shocked to see them try something in the portable market.
Oh, I have read reports of them making a portable console too. Yeah, so
I mean, it only makes sense, you know. It's where the lightning is. You know, home consoles will always be a thing. I honestly love the Switch's model. You can play it on your TV. You can play it on the go. Yeah, like that's perfection to me. You know, like that's exactly what I would want. So we might see something in that regard. They might still just play it safe and do stuff like the Portal. You know, just have like a more or less like just a gamepad dock in whatever Wi-Fi signal you're using, so whatever that is. You know, that's that area, which would also be fun. I think that might be the main idea for 10 years from now. But who knows? You know, for all we know, motion games can come back.
I don't. I'm confused about it. I've got different trains of thought. So Nintendo has this kind of run on the board. They did 64, which was like the massive console. Then they went the GameCube, which is terrible sales wise. Then they went to Wii, which was super popular. Then they went to Wii U, terrible. Then they got into Switch, very, very popular. So I'm scared for Nintendo right now. I'm scared for what they get. Have they learned enough that they can do two good consoles in a row? Can they do that?
Hey. Okay, the real ones know they did 3 good consoles in a row. NES, Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64. And as different as things are nowadays, what with your, you know, just like high-speed news, social media access and whatnots and what have yous, it's still the same company. It still runs on the same principles, for better and for worse, mind you. Mm-hmm. So, honestly, I think they can pull it off. I do.
Oh, okay. You're banking on Nintendo.
I want to. No, whoa! I'm not banking on them. All right. Okay. I'm keeping my money with me on this one. But I as someone who plays, you know, with their cards close to the deck, I would have to say, at least 10 years from now, Nintendo would be in the lead. The only thing I would say would alter that, which is a relatively new thing, you know, at least a new successful people own at least one thing, VR. That is something that hasn't been touched by Nintendo yet. It's something that Microsoft, you know, I don't see why they wouldn't. It's you know, it seems like it would go hand in hand, and of course Sony, you know, they put out the PSVR 1 and 2.
They've been in the VR space for a while now, so
they have. Yeah,
Sony hasn't backed away from it.
No, Xbox hasn't touched it. You know?
Xbox has not touched it, and like you said, Nintendo. Well, they did really do it with the Virtual Boy back in the 80s or whenever it was, but they haven't really gone anywhere near it. Also, I hope that Nintendo realizes that they are smart enough to just stay on the portable market and just keep making more portable stuff. That's where their money is. If they stay there, they're fine. I am a little bit scared for PlayStation, to be honest, because PlayStation's the one that they had the portable thing, they ditched it. They've had this great selling console, but like as you said, going towards these more portable things and cloud-based things, PlayStation hasn't been a big player in that market. They've kind of left that alone. Xbox has been. Xbox, if you look at the sales for Xbox Game Pass, for example, their biggest growth is from their people buying a Game Pass to not even play it on an Xbox, but to play it on the cloud, which means playing it on their imagine buying a Game Pass just so you could play games on your iPad with a Xbox controller. Like, I mean that's mind-boggling that doesn't even seem like an Xbox that we can associate with, but that's where the market's going. Like, Xbox is aware of that, and that's why Game Pass has become a thing, because they're not trying to sell you hardware, they're trying to sell you games.
Well, and that kind of goes into, of course, them having in a way, I could see Microsoft exiting the hardware sector completely, but just sticking with the software. You know, maybe pulling and pulling out why, because they're not nearly in the straits that Sega was back then. Not nearly.
No.
But sometimes you leave a venture when the getting's good. You got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them. And if you feel that you don't have whatever niche that both Sony and Nintendo have grabbed on, and you got this, goose laying the golden eggs filled with cloud gaming on your side, it's time to maybe, play with that. Well, I could absolutely see that happening in 10 years. Just Microsoft maybe just sticking with cloud gaming.
Well, there was another leaked email from Phil Spencer about how if by 2030, if they're not at 100 million, they basically want to be at 100 million Game Pass subscribers. If they are not, they are talking about leaving the market. But that's where they see see their biggest growth from the cloud first gamers and not console or PC gamers at all, which is weird to think about.
Keep in mind, these kind of emails, you can't take them completely. He said it. He did. He wants to push that. But I'm sure he even realistically knows that there are certain limits. And they're getting there. I don't know what the number is at the moment. I'm assuming if you have an Xbox, you have Game Pass. I can't speak for people that don't have an Xbox, but we just want to keep the Game Pass going so they can do cloud gaming. Because I would just want an Xbox. For the record, honestly, as far as playing on your tablet or whatever, I'm still not sold on that. The one thing I do like about the Switch is just the way it feels in your hands. It feels like a gaming console, a portable gaming console. And I know people put things on their tablet and whatever just so you can actually play, and it feels more like even a Switch. But even then, it just doesn't feel as legitimate as the Switch does when you lock those controllers in and you start playing. So I haven't really gotten into cloud gaming on that end just because of that reason. But I can't deny the possibilities of cloud gaming, and it could be the thing that saves Microsoft. That makes Microsoft number one in the gaming community, at least.
I do think that Microsoft has the best plan to actually get to number one. You can see their plan. They've worked really hard at getting a market share in Japan, which is somewhere that they've always struggled.
Yeah, historically they always have, and I got to give them credit. Anytime they make a good stab at it, and they usually do. They've gotten some they've gotten Japanese developers to work with them. So they know the market's there. It's just it's so hard. I don't know if they'll ever really be able to do it. At the very least, they'll never be able to pry Sony and Nintendo away.
Oh, I think so. But I think if they can get that market share, if they've been losing money with Game Pass. Well, probably not now. I think they're probably breaking even with it now. But for a long time, their Game Pass was not making them any money. But they knew what the price point was, and they knew where they had to get to with subscribers to make it a viable business option. But they're playing this long game to get into that. Yeah, and I mean, it's even forced Sony's hand to actually create their own Game Pass type thing in the last, about a year ago that happened. So Sony's following suit, not because they wanted to, because they were dominating that whole online marketplace type PlayStation Plus with their 3 free games that were just some old crappy games that they didn't want anymore. Now they play. I mean, Xbox doesn't even have Xbox Gold anymore. That's gone. So I don't actually know. Do you need Game Pass to play online now with Xbox?
See, I always have Game Pass, so
yeah, I don't know either.
No, even the other day. Long story short, credit card had to change numbers, but yeah, so it didn't renew properly because it didn't update my information. So I only didn't have it for 2 days. I just went out and just because I was lazy, so I just bought a prepaid card, for 3 months and be like, here,
yeah,
there you go. You can shut up for a while now.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Microsoft. Here is the money I give you to let me game good. Just make it just very simple and direct. But yeah, at the end of the day, while obviously then 10 years from now we're going to be shaped by the consoles, I hope that they're more influenced by the games themselves, because that's the way it always should be. It should be the games that you always go back to no matter what, because that's what that's the reason why you're there in the first place.
Mm.
So in 10 years time, I just hope games, and I know it's gonna, like, that part ain't gonna change. There's gonna be remakes, there's gonna be remasters, there's gonna be revisions, there's gonna be rethoughts, there's gonna be recycling.
Yes.
But like real recycling, maybe we can get something clean and pure, enjoyable, a breath of fresh air, even if it's a familiar breath of fresh air to us. I mean, I think that's the goal always. Just the games that you just go back to, that just keep you going to that.
No, I agree. So let's get on to some addictive games. Well, yeah. Do you want to start first on this addictive train ride?
Well, the number 5 for me, this is more my number 5, and also just more of a honorable mention because I don't know how long it's gonna last. But I love Starfield. I am into Starfield. All right, like I am on board. I'm on ship. I'm on the crew for Starfield. Now that could change. Sometimes you're playing a game and all of a sudden you hit a spot where you're like, "Wow, this just ruined the game for me." Onto the pile you go. But for right now, yes, Starfield is definitely my main vein to entertain. I can't wait to see what next. Honestly, after this podcast here, I'm probably gonna play Starfield.
You're in love with that game.
For now, like it's hard for me to really say it because the addiction's not over. By addiction not over, there are games that are still addicted to this game to play, but like the jonesing part is long gone. But for now, for Starfield, I am jonesing for that. Even right now, just talking about Starfield makes me think about that. What would be your number 5? Do you have anything even currently that you're playing that
I'm going to go with an honor. This is where this topic started with. I bought Pikmin 4, as we know, a couple of weeks ago. I talked about that, and I started playing that, and so it's more of an honorable mention. I don't know all that kind of part of it yet, how addicted I am to it, but I kind of hated this game, but like got so addicted to it. Like there was parts of the game that annoyed the crap out of me, and they made me so. I don't. There was like, for example, when you're throwing the Pikmins, like the UI was in the way, so I couldn't see how many I was throwing and things like that, which was just annoying me. But I wanted to keep playing. Every time I put it down, I'm just thinking about this game. So I think there's got to be this like annoying part in addictive games to kind of get people to come back to them, because maybe it's the annoying part that makes your brain think, hey, that game's actually really good. I just want to see what happens next. But you have to be slightly annoyed to get that feeling. So that's it's annoying, and it probably makes you bad. It makes you feel bad and mad and angry. Yeah. But you do go back to it. Yes.
It's got you. It's got you.
Yeah. But yeah.
Now, moving on from me, I'm combining 2 games here for my addiction because they're so similar and they're kind of the same developer-ish. Guitar Hero and Rock Band. Complete addiction. I learned how to play the real drums because I started playing Rock Band. I ended up getting a drum set. Yeah. And like buying, taking, I never actually took any lessons, but I bought books, learned how to, different rhythms and shit. It was so natural, learn how to drum, and I had a friend who played bass, a friend who played guitar, and I wouldn't have joined them had it not been for these games, because I was playing it all the time. All the time. When Guitar Hero came out, it was just the only game I would play. And what I liked about it, though, is one of the few games that I was addicted to that I kept playing, that it would get better and better and better every time. You start playing on easy, and you get confident, so then you play on medium, and now you're really confident, so then you're playing on hard, and next thing you know, you're playing Run to the Hills. On expert, just rocking out, and it is a game that I do play occasionally now. It's a good calorie burner for me, so I always go to that if I just want to sweat a little, just play a couple Who songs, a couple of Rush songs. Speaking of which,
Oh.
And for anyone watching that, um, it's one of the most addictive games I ever played, and one of the most rewarding games. Sometimes addictive games aren't the most
Oh,
rewarding in the long run. This game improved my life.
yeah, I can see that. I I never really got into that whole guitar bands, all that stuff. I mean I play real guitar, so I kind of didn't get the point of doing it on a plastic guitar, and it felt like all cramped. I was playing a little ukulele or something like that. So that's why I never I was just like, it's not for me. But yeah.
No, yeah, it's difficult. It's weird too because I actually knew someone. He loved the game too, but he was like I was just like my drumming and all that. It was amateur at best. This kid was like an accomplished, still is, guitarist, bassist, drummer, plays piano relatively well. So I didn't think he would like Guitar Hero, but he ended up like jumping right into it. He ended up loving it.
Yeah, so maybe it goes one or two ways. But I think did you ever play Rocksmith, which was the real where you plug your actual guitar into the console?
See, this is by the time that came out,
it was done.
The rhythm genre was starting to wane. Beatles Rock Band had just come out, and even like the last one, I'll keep up with Rock Band just so I can keep up with, because it's more of a workout for me at this time. Not really like playing it to get achievements or trophies or anything.
Yeah.
But by that time that came out, I was kind of ready to like not be as into rhythm games as I was for the couple previous years. Although I appreciate it, I was like, wow, you can play real guitar. It teaches you how to play real guitar. That's cool. Plus, by that time, even though I did like to play the guitar portion of Guitar Hero and Rock Band, I was way more into drums. I was much more into drums because that was the fun part for me. I loved and I still love drums.
And did you get into the DJ one?
I played it. It was cute. I liked the music. Music mashups were fun, but not really too hard. But the controller was really it was good. If you're an actual DJ, you might like it. I don't know. I never actually tried my hand at the turntables for reals, so I don't know where it ends and where it begins.
My number 4 was Zelda Minish Hat or Cap. Sorry.
Ooh, Minish Cap. Yeah.
Oh, that game was just so. Like I played it again just probably a couple of years ago. My son was sick, and I had to find something to kind of stay up all night to like look at it. And I'm not sure how good of a sick carer I was, but I was really good at Zelda. So it was, and it was actually really fun because we were kind of like, I feel like it made him better because he was watching me play Zelda, and by the time we got to like the morning, he was like 100% better. So it was perfect. So it was just the way that game is, the little and the big, and you're going up and down in size. I don't know. I just enjoyed that. I like games where you get to explore a world in different ways, but it's the same character. Like it's a different character, but the same world. But so I enjoy that part of it.
What was the name? Connect Stones, or like the when you would get those little half things. I loved that aspect of the game. I thought that was done really well. It was a way to like really, Zelda's always been celebrated for their side quests and the side stuff that you do. Get this many rupees, get this many heart pieces, things like that. And it's actually a shame that kind of never made its way into any other that I can think of.
No, I mean,
I'm sure in a roundabout way they, it's more or less just doing chores for people, but it was just done in a very cool way. In a way, it's pretty much better that it stayed with that, just to keep that Zelda iconic.
It was just a different Zelda too. It kind of had a different feel to some of the other Zeldas, I thought, and I just like that one. Just got me addicted.
Underrated final boss in a Zelda game. Vatai he's hard. He might be like he's at the very least the hardest final boss in a Zelda game. And I'm including Dark Link, because Dark Link has an easy exploit that you can do and just like, kill him quick. So Vatai, oh man, he was rough. I also like there was this boss fight where you actually had to shrink and you had to go into
that's what I was just about to talk about. Yes. Yeah, that was like my favorite boss fight where you shrink down, you go into the machine that you're killing, and then you so you hit him a couple of times, he kind of gets a bit unconscious, then you have to quickly shrink down, get inside of him, go and kind of smash him in the inside, and then it spits you out, and then you have to hit him on the out as a big character. I don't know, I just loved that mechanic for a boss fight. It was so fun.
That was an awesome boss fight. I love that boss fight too.
Yeah.
Going on to my number 3, as far as like, I don't play too much online gaming, or at least I don't play a lot of games with other people because other people suck, and if I do play with other people, I want to be on a team, hopefully with people that don't suck. One game I got super into for OG Xbox was Return to Castle Wolfenstein Tides of War. Fun single player. I enjoyed the single player a lot. I still do. But that multiplayer, man, it was the first time I ever had late night sessions. Everyone has late night sessions. Every gamer out there has had that one game that made them stay up way later than they should just to play that game, and it was that game. I would play it for hours, and I played it with the same people. It was probably the most I ever got into like an actual gaming community, because you'd recognize it wasn't like as rigidly organized as it is today. The original Xbox Live was a little archaic to say, it was good for the time, but you recognize these people, and then you start playing with them, and it was just so fun. You'd communicate with them, and you just like take on these other teams. The most fun I ever had online gaming was with Wolfenstein, and I played a lot. Like I played Unreal, I played Halo, I played Time Splitters, but that game was so near and dear to me. I would just go to it. It wasn't for a long time. I'd say less than 6-8 months, probably around there. And by then I was done with it. But in those 6-8 months, man, it's all I ever played.
Yeah, well, like all of my top 3 are online games because I never used to find them addictive. But then, did you find though that you'd have like your friends that would turn up at the same time, and then all of a sudden you're friends with these random people that you've never even known in your whole life, and you're talking about like stuff that, I don't know, like what you were doing at work today and things like that you never even like talk to probably people in your own life about. But all of a sudden, these people that you don't even know everything about you in that year or so of your life that you're involved in that game.
One thing that online gaming did for me, and it does for everyone, is it broadens your horizons on people, because I'd get on late at night and like I'd be talking to people from like England, from Germany, from France, from Australia, whatever time of the day it happens to be, and you just meet and you start talking to them, and it just like crushed the social, the cultural barrier, because now you're playing the game together. That was one of the things that just brought me so into it. It's like not only I'm not just playing with just some random shows. I'm playing with like all these people from all across the world, and we're coming together to play this. Wow, ain't that cool, And you end up learning a lot about yourself. Actually, it's funny that like I didn't realize I had like a New England accent or a Boston accent until I started playing online games, because you don't think of that stuff because you're just in your little bubble, because you don't think about anything other than the 50-mile whatever kilometer radius around you growing up. But the second you realize that now you're communicating with all these people all around the world, you start to learn not just more about them, but more about yourself and where you are. And this all happened with Wolfenstein, with a World War II shooter, class-based game.
Yeah. So my number 3 was actually on the PlayStation 3. There was this game called Mag. Did you ever play this?
I actually heard about the game. I heard it, for the time it was unprecedented. You could have a lot of players.
It was 120 people per match. It was the first massive MMO shooter of its time, and it was just so good for that first year that it came out. It was so better than Battlefield. They kind of didn't have like this whole spawn spot shooting, because you could spawn everywhere, so you weren't getting just completely raped every time you landed somewhere that they knew you were going to spawn here. You just spawn randomly everywhere, so it was really done well like that. And the actual bullets would like you would hit people. There was no kind of lag or anything. It was really, really, really well done. And I haven't actually played an MMO shooter game as big as that since that game. So it was, I just remember it was the game too that I think up until then, I don't know if Call of Duty even had, what's it one where you have the 3 bases and you got to capture them. They didn't have all that kind of stuff. They only had pretty much a few different other ways. So this game brought in some different mechanics of base capturing and holding bases and all that type of stuff that wasn't really a thing in a lot of those online shooter games at the time. But
no, like it's funny. I feel like an idiot when I think now, like looking back, because I remember looking at Mag being like, "Wow, 128 people playing. That's stupid. Who would play a game with that many people in it? It'd be super confusing and wouldn't play good." Of course, what do I know? Looking at today's massively multiplayer battle royale games.
But it was,
at the time, it was, that was quite revolutionary, though. Like when you think about it,
that's the only reason I bought it. I only bought it just to see what this would actually be like, because I was like coming from Call of Duty and that at the time, and I'm like, how can someone actually put that many people in a game? If I get like 10 people in a Call of Duty game, sometimes that gets lag. Like, how are you going to put 120 people in this game and make it actually work? So I'm like, I've got to try this. And it stopped me from playing Call of Duty at the time. So,
wow. Yeah, no, that's it's cool. I mean, I do regret. I'm sure I don't even know if the server's up for it now. I don't know how many Mag players are out there today, or who would play it. But that's what kind of like stinks about getting addicted to online games is the fact that it doesn't last. You know, like even Rock Band now I can go and play, or hell, even the Pikmin 4 or my game Starfield. Those will be around to play. But when you get to games like that kind of depend on something, it stinks when you see it go sometimes. And
maybe that's why you get addicted to the games like that, because you're like, I've got to play it before the play community dries up and I can never play this again. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, my number 2 is actually, this is kind of a weird addiction, because this is addiction that comes in waves. Like, I'll leave this game for a while, then come back to it hard, then leave it for a while, come back. And it's just the weirdest game. It's had the weirdest hold on me. Duke Nukem 3D. I played it religiously when it came out, but not for the PC. That's the thing. I didn't have a computer back then, but it was my main, if I had a computer, I played Duke Nukem game that, I could think of for the PC. But when it did come out for the consoles, Total Meltdown PS1, 64 on the Nintendo 64, which is a very underrated port. That's the one I really fell in love with. And I played it nonstop then. And I would just play it over and over again. Just a handful of levels, but I would just keep playing them over and over and over again because it was just a fun game. I loved the environments. I loved all the stuff you could do. And I got my fun out of that. Then, a couple years later, I still didn't have a PC, but I did have a 360, and it came out on the 360. And now this was the PC version, just made for consoles. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I fell in love with it again, like right away. Loved it. And now that I actually do have a computer, now not only can I play the game the way it was meant to be played, but now there's a whole bunch of user maps out there on the interwebs that I can just dive right into. And it's my constant. If we're talking video games addictions, it's my coffee, it's my cigarettes. It's that low base addiction that you don't think about, you just have.
So it wasn't a very big game though. Like, was it as big of a game? Like, I thought it was a bit of a flop of a game.
No, I mean,
compared to the original Duke Nukems, I thought 3D was kind of like the game. 3D was the game that they promised everyone, and everyone's like, hey, let's go and we're going to release the 3D Duke Nukem. But then it took like 5 years too long to release, and the kind of, yeah.
Like, are you sure you're not thinking of Duke Nukem Forever?
Oh, sorry. My bad.
All right. I was like, I have to stop you there, buddy.
No,
and yes, Duke Nukem. You're right about Duke Nukem Forever. That was a flop, hard. I mean, I have 2 copies of it, but it was a flop hard.
I thought it was a fun game, though. It's not a terrible game. It just didn't suit the time because the characters didn't really mesh with the real world at the time.
No, he was a 97 character in a when it come out 2008 world. You know, like time had passed. It was over for Duke. At least the Duke that we knew. But because because of the user maps and everything and just all the stuff, it's a game that's still supported to this day online. It hasn't ended on that, and that game's still fun as hell. I play it at least once a week. At least I'll play a level. I'll find a level. I'll be like, oh, this level looks cool. I'll play it, and I'll be like, because I played the original levels to the ground. I'll still get funky with them now and then, or I might try just like get weird and play maybe like the PS1 exclusive levels. But that just opens up a whole new world, and I just love the original game so much that with this, it's my fix. It's my coffee.
Yeah. No, fair enough. So let's. Are we? Where are we up to?
You're on number 2. You're on
number 2. Oof.
The penultimate game.
Okay, so I'm going to combine 2 games because they were basically the same game, but
All right.
Titanfall 1 and 2. Again, it kind of comes back to that Manish Cap kind of idea of playing with these big. It was this cat and mouse type of game.
Yeah. Nice analogy.
Yeah, and I really before that you never got these big boss things that you could go and you'd have these little guys climbing up them and trying to tear the guy out of the Titan, and there was nothing like that. And you could just go around and just blow everything up, and it actually had the other weird element in that game that not a lot of first-person shooters had. It was having AI characters in the game, so you could shoot them to get half points, or you could shoot real people to get full points. So having all the AI characters was kind of good too, because it was still giving you a point kick over where like playing Call of Duty and that at the time you were just only getting kills for real people that you were killing. So I loved Titanfall. It was just so fun. The wall running was great. The jetpacks, the Titans. It was just. I'm so sad that we don't have a Titanfall 3. Like, it's just.
I
sad.
never played the original Titanfall. I admittedly, even Titanfall 2, I played online once, so I really can't talk too much about the online portion of it. But I loved Titanfall 2's single player campaign.
Yeah.
It's one of the best first person shooter single player campaigns I have ever played. If we're just talking like your military Call of Duty shooter, you know, like that kind of style, 2 weapons, easily the best campaign I've ever played. Or the most fun I've ever played in a campaign. I love it. And like you said, moving into the giant Titans, and everything changes, but everything doesn't change kind of thing. Kind of like the Minish Cap. You're still Link. You're still, you know, waving the sword, blocking, all that stuff. But now this perspective is now different.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a great analogy. I'm jealous I didn't come up with that one.
But yeah, so that's where I just don't know why. I mean, I know why there's no Titanfall 3 because they went and made that other crappy game. But
Apex Legends.
Yeah,
I'll say this for Apex Legends, it's the funnest battle royal game I've ever played, but I'm still not going to play it.
I tried playing it a couple of times, and I was just like, oh, give me a Titan. Why can't we have a Titan each?
Yeah.
Okay.
But if we're going now, numero uno. And this is the game, like
where's your Guitar Hero drum kit so we can get a drum roll off you?
Check out my Twitch channel, guys. You'll see me drum on there. My number 1 game that I'll go, and it sucks too when I'm about to go into it, and I know I'm about to play it because I probably installed it, and now I need to get into it. And it's kind of funny that we start with Starfield because easily Skyrim by far. I never want to see how many hours I dumped into that game. I don't.
Knew you were going there. I knew that. Across
systems, PC, PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, I have dumped days, weeks I hope not months, but I have dumped so much time into that game. I can't, like, I don't know. It's just, by all accounts, when people do criticize Skyrim, their criticisms are valid. You know, I don't disagree with a lot of them, but there's just a way the soup comes all together. The exploring, the dialogue, the story, what you can do, how you level up your character, the different quests, where things take you. It just comes together in a package that I've never touched before or since. Yeah, and it was just so. True story. If anyone has ever played Skyrim, the siege at Whiterun, when you go to the Whiterun, I was on the side of the Empire. Sorry, and you're pretty much you're the city is sieged by Ulfric's Stormcloaks army, the Stormcloaks, and it's pretty much it's just that they come in waves. You kill them all before they get to the main door, and then you complete the mission. I had I forget what the actual name for it was, but I had a really bad stomach virus, just projecting out of whatever hole in my body the liquid wanted to project out of at a time. Even despite having that, and I was out of work for a couple days, that's where I was in the game. I played through that. And I would have to stop every 5 minutes because I'd have to do something. I'm not going to get too graphic to it, but I didn't care. That's just how much I love Skyrim, how much I was like pumped for this part of the game. Like I was telling myself, like, I don't care, I'm playing through it. And I went right through. As soon as I was done, I stopped and I went right back to bed for like 15 hours. But I was going to play that no matter. I played through illness because the game was so addicting. I don't think I would do that with any other game.
Yeah, that's hardcore addiction there.
Yeah, that's a problem. I should have seeked help then. Maybe I wouldn't be where I'm at now. I don't know.
It would be GAA, Gamers Anonymous.
Yeah, like yes. I was at a low point. I was covered in my own fluids while I was playing Skyrim. Sorry. But you know, that just shows you though, when a game gets you, it's got you. But how about you? What game did you poop your pants with?
Yeah, you could probably guess this. It was Call of Duty World at War, the first Call of Duty that I got into. When I checked on my page, I had spent 45 days playing that game.
You got gameplay for days.
Yeah.
45 days?
45
oh my God.
days.
In a row? In a row?
No, that was like over the course of a year. That's a lot of time out of it. That's full day. So that's, I don't know how many hours that is, but it's a lot of time.
When we're talking that, does that conclude the entire time? Or is that just competitive multiplayer? Is that also single player?
That was
also zombies?
just multiplayer. I don't think I even went the campaign.
Oh my God!
I prestiged 9 times or something, and that's how long it takes to prestige 9 times.
Yeah, 45 days. Just go at it.
Because at the time when that came out, I'm not sure about Modern Warfare at the time. The prestige system has evolved over time, but at the time, the prestige system was so addictive because the only way you could get certain guns was to prestige. And so there was none of this, oh, you can use a token to get double points for an hour or some of that crap they've got now. It was all just play hardcore and you just got addicted to it. It was so bad. I would play literally on a weekend, maybe 30 hours from a Friday night to a Sunday night. That was just probably too much, but it was what it was.
Fun. I got into World at War 2. Fun. It was fun. It was the second. Modern Warfare 2 is where I really started playing multiplayer Call of Duty. So I got deep into World at War. I liked it a lot. You know, I mean, I wasn't done with World War 2 games yet at that point.
Yeah,
so I didn't put 45 days into it, but I played a good amount.
I think I got the same amount of days into, like a couple of years later, but it was Black Ops 2 or 3, one of those that I did the same thing on, because it wasn't every single Call of Duty that I would done. Most Call of Duties, it would be about, 3 or 4 days worth of time into them. So, but as soon as I get to the one that it got me hooked, yeah. It was when the prestige, and you got all the things. But now the prestige just goes like forever. And once you maxed out, then on prestige, you were just maxed out. There was no going up prestige after that. But you just wanted to have that full max prestige and be the first guy to do that.
Yeah. Back then you were playing a game. Now you're playing a platform.
Yeah. And now you've got all these skins. Now you've got all these. I don't like the battle passes and all that stuff as much. And I find, I don't know, it was better times back then. Back then, I remember you'd buy a map pack, and it would, if you paid the extra for the map pack, you'd get a gun as well. That was part of the map pack deal. Like nowadays, that's not even a thing. Like, you have to just buy the gun. So,
that's it. It was always fun back then, but I mean, they're still just addicted now as today. I'm sure people will probably tell it. And make sure to say this in the comments. What's an addictive game? What's a game that you would think of? What's a game that you would dream about when you were playing it? One of those games. Because all the games I mentioned today, I have. I'm sure it crept up into your subconscious too. I'm sure you were just standing there one day and just being like, "Oh, World at War," like it just enters your brain.
All I wanted to do every time you'd hear dogs bark, I just wanted to call those dogs on some people. Like,
yeah. Oh, I remember that. Yeah, that was badass.
Yeah, just I want to go and call some dogs, and 9 kills.
They need to bring that back. Do they have dogs?
Sometimes, depending on every probably third or fourth game, they throw some dogs into it.
Good. I'm glad the dogs are still around.
The AI was way worse back then, and you could jump. There'd be certain parts of the map where you could jump up and hide in a garden, and the dogs couldn't get you because of the collision factor, and they'd be like, you could just stand there and shoot all the dogs, and you learnt that over time playing it. But like you said, though, my biggest kind of annoyance is that that's why I'm probably not as classic gamer as some people, because my favorite games seem to be online, and I can't go back and play World at War because no one plays. I mean, there's one guy that's still playing it probably, but there's not a whole big amount of people playing it. I mean, I think Call of Duty then did release AI, so it would be you playing solo, but they'd have AI as the other players because they got them. They basically copied what players were doing and then just put them in as AI.
No, like just to keep it going, like you said, just the memories and the memory of the addiction and the chase. It's tough to go with cold turkey when they just take that stuff away.
It's upsetting. Well, that's when I used to max out on prestige. It's just like I'd almost just go, okay, I've done it now, and then I'd give away the game. Like that would be my thing. Once you got that, all the things you could get, it was just like, okay, I'm out. I've prestiged enough.
Yeah.
Put this down.
But anyway, I mean, I could keep going on. There's other games that I know I've dumped a lot of time into, but those are the 5 ones that, for me, like off the top of my head, I think took the most out of my life. I gave Starfield the honorable mention just because, like, it's going right now. You know what I mean? I haven't put as many hours into it as the other games, but it looks like I'm going to be.
I was surprised that Fallout 4 didn't make your list.
Well, I do like Fallout 4, like, quite a bit, but just, and I did dump a lot of hours in that, but Skyrim was even Oblivion, I really didn't dump too much into. I did the main quest, I did some side quests, but Skyrim was the first, like, just open world game, not just Bethesda game, but just open world game that just grabbed me like that, like hard, like bad.
I think
I had a problem with that.
And this is why I think you don't like The Witcher 3, because The Witcher 3 was released around the same time as Skyrim, and I think you were this side or that side. You were you couldn't be both.
Yeah, I mean, I Skyrim kind of ruined. Maybe if I played Witcher 3 first, maybe things would have been different. I don't know. I will do Witcher 3 again. I promise you. It's all right. I know.
Full live stream, the whole thing. and then you'll come back and go, I'm so addicted to this game. I'm so sad.
I got a vacation coming up. I'll dedicate a whole day just to live stream that thing, just to see just to see if it can get me. Who knows? Maybe that'll make the list next time we do an addictive game list. But yep, no, that's my addictive game list though. Yeah, it's a good one, and these were all great games. Some more annoying than others, but all addictive.
Yeah. Well, I think we've got some weird shows coming up in the next couple of weeks because PAX Australia's on. I'm going to that, so I won't be about, but we're going to do some pre-recorded shows and things like that for people to see. They'll still be at the same time, same place, all that bat stuff that they go on about. But yeah, but it's all good. But just saying that the shows will be different too. We're going to do some off the cuff stuff for the next couple of weeks, and it could get wild. Let's see.
Oh yeah, gird your loins, everybody.
Who knows what's going to happen? Anyway, thank you for watching. Anything else you wanted to bring before we get out of here?
Well, no, I'm sure we'll mention it again, but I just want to say on behalf of not just Anything Game, but Radio Bush Game in general, I'm so happy for you to go to PAX, and I'm looking forward to that. I think we're all looking forward to the stories and just the experience of going there. I just can't wait for it. Like I myself am most excited for that coming up soon.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm so pumped. The amount of pumped up I am for PAX is crazy. It's
nice.
Yeah. So let's get out of here and talk next time. Goodbye. Thank you for watching, listening.